What religion were you once a part of, and what compelled you to first question its validity?
I used to be part of a religion, a very small religion called Christianity. You might have heard of it. More specifically, a sect or a denomination called the Church of Christ. They're very literal and conservative type of denomination, even though they don't claim to be a denomination. They say that they're the only ones going to heaven. In fact, they refer to themselves as the church. Plenty of fire and brimstone lessons, such as, if you're gay, then you're going to hell. And if you divorce, then you can't remarry or you're going to go to hell. If you have long hair, you're going to go to hell. Very, very conservative and very hardcore in that aspect, I guess. As far as what made me question its validity, it definitely wasn't the Christians, the people. It wasn't even their Church of Christ itself, but more so the rejection of science and the barbarity of the religion itself. Around the time that I became an atheist, I had been studying astronomy, and one thing that stood out to me was the fact that supernovas can only occur once a star is hundreds of thousands or sometimes millions of years old. And even for the light itself to reach us, it's millions of light years away. So that means it takes millions of years for the light to get here. And, as a Christian, you're just forced to either accept that, okay, well then stars are only thousands of years old, which doesn't make any sense, or that God made it appear as though the Earth and universe are millions or billions of years old, which means that he's deceiving you. Which doesn't make sense when you throw in the verse there that says God is not an author of confusion. I also kind of realized my skepticism when I read through the Bible for the probably 100th time and wasn't able to justify it for myself anymore or validate it. Reading through the Old Testament and seeing where God commanded the slaughter of innocent children, of babies, of mothers, of men, making women eat their own children as a punishment for not believing in God, not even for doing something that's immoral. And as a Christian, you read these stories, some Christians in more liberal churches will say, oh, well, we don't really accept that, that's just kind of history, that was written by man, it was inspired by God. But then places like the Church of Christ will just say, oh, well, yeah, it was necessary at that time, there was a reason for it. And I couldn't read that anymore and accept it. I couldn't read through it anymore with a conscience and look at it and say, oh yeah, this is right. I couldn't force myself to do that anymore. A lot of people have told me that I was just jumping on a bandwagon, and to that I say, I didn't even know any atheists at the time. When I started becoming skeptical of the Bible, I was preparing lessons to teach at churches. I've been on mission trips. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It wasn't something that I thought was cool. Even for years after becoming an atheist, it's been 2.5 years now, and I'm still fearful of hell, even though I don't even believe in it. And a lot of atheists will tell you that because it's so ingrained in you to believe that you're going to be punished for living your life that it's scary. It's still scary to this day. It's not something I ever wanted to do. It's not something I ever pictured myself doing. As far as jumping on a bandwagon goes, how can you do that if you don't even know anyone that's part of that? Staying a Christian would be jumping on the bandwagon because everyone I knew at the time was a Christian. So it definitely wasn't something I wanted to do. It wasn't jumping on a bandwagon. It was just reading through the Bible and not being able to, as my friend put it, put on my goggles anymore, which is when you read through the Bible and you don't see the disgusting morality of it. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't force myself to do it. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but I couldn't force myself to go against my own conscience and accept the Bible for what it says.
What finally convinced you that you were an atheist?
To be completely honest, I'm not really sure. It wasn't something that just one day I was reading and it was like, oh, I'm an atheist now. It was definitely a long drawn process for about 4 or 5 months of just being curious and skeptical of what the Bible says. But it wasn't any outside sources. It wasn't people. I didn't know anyone, like I said earlier, that was an atheist. It was just reading the Bible and not being able to turn a blind eye to the immorality of it. I wasn't able to convince myself that it was scientifically accurate anymore, because I was actually studying evolutionary theory at the time. So it definitely wasn't like a moment in time that I became an atheist, but more so of a process.
How have you been treated by your family and others after you became an atheist?
Honestly, a lot better than I thought it would be. Obviously, I mean, I have lost friends because of it, but I've heard a lot of stories that have been a lot worse than the situation I've been put into. As far as family goes, I mean, it's been about the same. I didn't live with my family at the time, so it made it a lot easier. Most people that, you know, come up with these horror stories of being shunned and kicked out by their family lived with their family when they came out as an atheist. I also hid it for a long time, for about a year and a half after becoming atheist. That's when I kind of came out of my shell and started not necessarily telling people, but just not being as cautious about what I say. I stopped lying about going to church, and there are still people that I do hide it from, less out of fear and more out of not wanting to be rejected by them, because it is a thing that happens, definitely. I've seen people be shunned by family members and friends just for coming out as a different denomination, and I think it's worse because of the denomination that I'm a part of, or used to be a part of, but it's definitely not been as bad as I thought it would be. And as far as that goes, I mean, with the friends that I did lose and family that did shun me, I would say this to you: if people only care about you because of the Christian you are, and not because of the qualities of your personality, then you don't need them in your life in the first place. And I will stand by that until I die. If someone treats you differently because you're not a Christian anymore, then you don't need them in your life. That is, of course, if you're financially independent. If you are living with your family and you feel that if you were to come out to your family or parents and it would put you in any kind of danger of being kicked out, then yeah, maybe it is safer for you to hide it for now. But as far as feeling like you're forced to lie about it for people to respect you, and you're living on your own, then forget it. Just tell them.
Are you open to religion? And what sort of evidence would one need for you to subscribe to it?
I'm more than happy to hear about a religion that has enough evidence for me to buy into it or subscribe to it. So far, I've not found anything like that, but, you know, some atheists will say like, oh, I'll never be a Christian, or I'll never be a Hindu, I'll never be religious, and I'm more than open to it if you can give me more evidence than a 2,000 or 4,000 or 10,000-year-old book that says, oh yeah, this is right, this God is real. It takes more than that. And, you know, everyone will say, well, there's no more miracles anymore. If you can give me a miracle right now, sure, whatever you're selling, whatever snake oil religion you have, I'll buy into it, sure. But I've not seen any religion that has enough evidence for me to subscribe to it. That isn't to say that I'm not going to reject anyone if they're religious, if that's the question. But as far as for me, I've not seen any religion that has enough evidence for me to buy into it. I feel like that God would know what amount of evidence it would take for me to buy into it.
Would you date or marry someone who was religious? Do you have religious friends?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be difficult, but I feel like if there was love in the relationship, then absolutely. I don't feel like religion should hold people back from being together. For about 5 months of my relationship, the woman who I eventually married, she was religious. She was a Christian for about 5 or 6 months while I was an atheist, and it was difficult, but we knew that we would be able to pull through. I don't know if the same could be said for everyone, but I don't feel like it would be as difficult as people make it out to be, depending on how religious that person is. Most people that are Christians, at least that I know of, aren't very strict on their religion. They just kind of say, like, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, you know, I'm going to heaven. But if it was someone who's extremely hardcore Christian, like Church of Christ, I don't feel like it would be that easy. I feel like it'd be pretty difficult. As far as friends go, like I said before, I did lose a good amount of friends when I became an atheist, but also with a lot of my friends, I feel like it strengthened our relationship, kind of in a way, because now we're able to have like good discussions and not just, you know, have this echo chamber of friends that all believe the same thing and just don't have great discussions, because what is there to discuss if you all believe in the same thing? That's kind of my personal take on it. A lot of my friends, in fact, probably the majority of my friends are Christian, and I wouldn't really want to have it to where all of my friends are atheists or all of my friends are one certain group of people. There shouldn't be one kind of quality you have to have or certification you have to be friends with someone. I feel like it's great to have friends that are religious and non-religious, you know, as a support group, because you get different takes on things and you get to discuss certain things on certain topics that you wouldn't be able to if all of your friends or everyone you knew was of one mindset. As far as marriage goes, I feel like it'd be kind of hard to wake up to someone every day that like actually believes that you're going to hell, or that you have absolutely no moral compass, when they themselves believe that if at any moment their invisible friend, if they were to tell them to kill you, then they would. They would follow that advice. I feel like that's kind of scary, but most people, I feel like it wouldn't be that difficult depending on how strictly their religion is.
What is your favorite religion or mythology if you have one, and why?
I know it might be cliche, but if I had to pick one favorite religion or mythology, I would say probably Greek and Roman mythology, just because of the stories and culture that they brought with them, how many like books and movies and stuff it's influenced. And I also love like the epic stories like the Odyssey and Iliad, and I think they're really cool stories. And I like the gods because they, you know, you have Ares and you have Zeus, who've done like such immoral things, and you know, you have these stories about them raping and pillaging cities, but they don't claim to be omnibenevolent while doing it. Unlike, you know, the Christian God or the Muslim God, they don't claim to have some kind of greater good. You know, they're just like, you know, screw you, I'm gonna kill you humans because I'm not good. You know, I can do what I want, I'm not moral. But then you have the Christian God that can do the exact same thing and say, oh, well, yeah, there's a greater purpose behind it, and I'm doing it for the better good of humanity, and it is moral. So I kind of respect that in that sense, and I think they're all just really cool stories.
What gives your life meaning?
I give my own life meaning, and I think that's one of the best differences between atheism and theism, because I don't require someone to tell me how to live my life, to tell me what I should think about certain things, to tell me what to do. That's not the reason I'm an atheist by far, but it is a very good part, because my meaning of life doesn't have to be worshiping some deity that I can't see, or focusing on some goal that I don't even know is provable, but I can focus on helping humanity live past me. I can help my wife, I can help, if I have children, I can help them have a better future in this world. And that's kind of what gives my life meaning. Comedy, music, video games, those kinds of things give my life meaning in a way. But I think as far as a greater purpose in life, I think making sure that future generations have a clean earth to live on, and that they have the best education possible, the best health possible, I would say that's what gives my life meaning.
What should the goal of humankind be?
To impeach Trump! Personally, I think the goal should be furthering human education, maybe getting human life to other planets before our sun explodes, to create an environment that we humans can actually live on and become as educated as possible, as healthy as possible, and as happy as possible. That's what I think the goal of humankind should be.
Do you believe in the paranormal or any sort of mystical realm?
I'm gonna have to give this one a hard no. As much as I'd like to, I do believe in extraterrestrials, but that doesn't involve anything paranormal. I don't think that, you know, they're spirits or anything. I think it's possible that there's life on other planets. As far as that goes, it could just mean some microscopic single-celled bacteria. It could be advanced aliens that have been around for thousands of years or millions of years. But I don't believe in anything paranormal. I might believe in aliens, but not in any kind of mystical sense. More of just mathematical probability of there being other life on other planets. But no, I don't believe in any kind of mystical paranormal realm, such as like heaven or hell or Valhalla, or there being spirits or anything like that.
If you could recommend one single book to a religious person, what would it be and why?
I think it would definitely have to be this one right here. It's called the Bible, and from what I've heard from a lot of Christians, or at least the way they talk, a lot of them haven't read it. I know a lot of them have, but most of the people that I've talked to, I guarantee, have never read through this even once. And as a lot of preachers will tell you, it's about as long as a Harry Potter book. I know it's hard to understand, but, you know, before you come to me and tell me that I'm going to hell, or come to me and tell me that I'm an idiot for not believing in it, I'll challenge you to read it, or somehow prove to me that you've even read more than what most Christians have probably read. I would say one of the Gospels and probably Acts and maybe Ephesians, because it's like 5 chapters. I would say the majority of them have never read through the entirety of Genesis. Definitely not the entirety of the New Testament, and I would say there's probably 3 Christians on the entire earth that have read the entire Old Testament. I guarantee it. And It's sad, and it really pisses me off and frustrates me, because I don't have an extreme amount of knowledge about the Bible, but 99% of Christians that I've argued with have a sliver of knowledge that I have about it. Most of them haven't read it. I'll tell them stories of the Old Testament, such as, you know, Jephthah sacrificing his daughter to God, and they're like, well, that's not in there. I'm like, how do you argue with someone that doesn't even know, you know, what they're arguing for? It's like I'm having to teach them about the Bible while simultaneously using it to disprove what they are claiming to know. And so I would definitely recommend the Bible. I'll give it 5 stars. It's great. There's audiobook versions of it. It's not only the most sold book on the planet Earth, but also the most stolen book on the planet Earth. And so I find that a bit ironic. But anyways, that's all the questions. I hope that I answered them the best I could. I'm not really going to edit this video much. I just wanted to kind of be raw, my input of these questions. I answered them as honestly as I could. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free to DM me on Twitter. Feel free to subscribe to me on YouTube and comment on this video and tell me what you think. If you like the video, go ahead and leave it a like. If you didn't like the video, then I ask you to leave a dislike. Please let me know what you think. Thanks, guys.